David Mccann. I'm the CTO of Self Financial here in Austin, Texas. We're focused on helping people build their credit and kind of their credit journey, over the last couple of years. So excited to be here today. Thanks, Jeff.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I know we previously talked a little bit about your background in building out your own, I guess, tech firms or firms from kind of the ground up, some VC-backed firms. So, what are some of the key factors that contributed to your firm's initial success in attracting VC firms? And then the second part to that, how did you leverage the funding to fuel growth?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was lucky early in my career to have a couple of great outcomes with great founders where I wasn't the founder. As part of that, kind of process, I think you get introductions and doors are obviously opened a lot easier when you're raising capital, for yourself or your own new venture. So for me, a lot of it had to do with kind of put my nose down and working hard at the companies that I was at, and then, leveraging that kind of experience into, capital raise and, founding businesses and things like that.
Awesome. And what are some of the challenges that you face when scaling those tech firms or firms in general? And, kind of how did you overcome those? Maybe those people that are watching that are growing their current companies now.
Yeah, there's a couple different things. One, obviously, timing is a good thing. So, I, at least myself, anytime that I worked for a small startup or founded something, it was actually at kind of the tail end of a recession. So I think there's a little bit of a timing, you don't want to go start a new company at the start of a recession, but I think as you come out of those, I think those are great opportunities. And then I would say, the second thing that is important to me, especially when it comes to, kind of building companies, it's really that core team and the people. I think oftentimes people get kind of caught up in the, kind of the, if you will, sexiness of raising capital and starting a company and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's really critical that you get the right, I always say the right 5 to 10 people or 20 people in the organization that are, kind of have the same values and integrity and things that you hold dear. I think that's probably one of the most important things, above having, a great product and market fit and a great idea and context and things like that. I think it's, the team that you build with, it really, changes the velocity of the business.
I'm glad you said that. I've been reading a lot on, growing a business, buying a business, things like that, in my free time. And every single person that whether it's a post or a book or, someone I follow on LinkedIn, 95% of them all say it's about building a good team around you to have the most success. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to ask that if you didn't, what about a team? So that's awesome. I'm going to maybe mix it up a little bit. What makes a good team, or what do you look for in the core 5 to kind of help you build out or grow your company, especially if it's yours?
Yeah, if it's yours or even as an early employee. I think early on my career, it was more basic things like work ethic and kind of goals and, kind of things like that. I think now, and even as I scale and grow businesses, I think, diversity in those people. Like if, asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, I want hardworking people that are focused on the same things as me, that want to see the same outcomes. Today, when I either hire somebody or even when I'm interviewing for a job or a position in a new company, I look for the diversity in the organization. Because a good example, I've got 4 or 5 people that I've had the opportunity to work with, multiple times. The person that runs tech ops for us here at Self, she and I have worked together for 3 different ventures, and she has a much different approach to how she scales, how she approaches projects, work, things like that. Completely dynamic, completely different than me. much more structured, kind of very focused
Mm,
on timelines and things like that. I think you need to find like two or three of those people that are different than you. And I think they have a common different view. And then I think, as a founder, you've got to find people that will tell you you're wrong, right? Or or
absolutely.
I think it's always fun and interesting to be the founder and see the press and raise the money and things like that. But what you really need when you're a founder is somebody to tell you you're wrong. And that's what I look for in those core people, whether it be an opinion or just an approach or any of those types of things. I think the more kind of diversity that you can get in that mix of early employees, the better outcomes you're going to have.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that standpoint there, because I've been at companies where the leadership doesn't really value the opinion of the people that are
Oh
building the
yeah,
company, salespeople or people in the background that are kind of digging the tunnels or doing the grunt work. And then I've also been at companies where my opinion or the opinions of the other account executives, account managers, recruiters, whatever it may be,
yeah,
is so important to the leadership. And they ask those questions because how are you supposed to build that company without, kind of getting I guess I'm looking for the right word here, but the whatever they do on a daily basis, if they're not doing it
yeah,
well, if they're doing it right, how are that's the only way to build a company. At least I've seen it work a lot better when you ask the opinions of people, maybe say underneath you, or the people that are out there, right, doing the grunt work every single day. Though their opinion does matter, to the top, because they are out there building the company with you and
yeah.
and talking about it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
they're
Well,
the best. Yeah, absolutely. And look, innovation comes from your employees, not there's I always love these executives that are, kind of the oracles of their business and they're very focused on kind of cult of personality and things like that. And my experience over the last 20 years has been it's those people, whether it be the sales engineer in front of a customer or, an account executive that sits in front of PG&E or
mhm.
Kellogg's or any one of these companies, they know what's going on with their customers. They know the interaction, things like that. So as an as a leader, the closer you can get to that, it's gold, right? Like it's
Yep.
it's the it's the way you drive innovation and creation, and especially as you start to scale the business. I mean, I think that materially changes the way that a company does business and innovates. So
Absolutely. You stole the words right from me. That's exactly what I was looking for.
yeah.
So yeah, let's transition into kind of out of building your own firms and into where you are now. So maybe out of entrepreneurship into the CTO position now at Self Financial.
Mhm.
It's a growing fintech firm. How did you approach the leadership and decision making change when you transitioned from entrepreneur role to the CTO role?
Um, I think this sounds interesting, but I think as I've gotten into more kind of later stage growth companies where um, not quite public, but kind of still nimble, but still 50 to 150, 200, $300 million in revenue. I think I look for a very specific pattern. I look for first the executive team. So are they a first time team? Are they continue to gel? Have they had success in the past? Is it somebody I want to drink a beer with? Right? Like
Hmm.
everybody has that life lessons of you want to work with people that you go have a beer with. Um, but I look for a very specific set of patterns, especially in growth companies like this, right? Like strong CFO, strong CEO, product market fit's already captured. So, can you still innovate inside of that organization? So you know, I think as I've matured as a leader, I've gone more to um, more of a profile of a business that I think that is interesting. And, then I look at two or three things. One, is there still room to grow? Are the products attractive? But then I look for two things. One, um, the team and like you said, right? Like that director or that software developer or that salesperson, are they passionate about their company? Are they passionate about their products? Or is it just a job? So I
Hmm.
look for those types of things when looking at an organization. And then a lot of it, the places that I've been the most successful, um, it's really had a dynamic culture. And then I think the last thing I'll say about that is, um, especially with Self, it's an incredibly mission-driven company. People work here not because they want to, have the next best exit or things like that. They're really mission that, we're really focused on, helping people drive positive, credit outcomes with our products and things like that. So you get a certain amount of, when you join a mission driven company, I think there's a certain type of person, everybody wants to be successful and get
Hmm.
promoted and have great exits and things like that. But I think when you find a company like Self, which is very mission driven, I think, all the things that you have to work on in a boring technology company, you don't have to work on those things because your mission's already embedded. The people are already motivated, and people are excited about being there.
Absolutely. It's easy to pick out the people that are mission driven and motivated and not just there for a job, isn't it?
It is, it is,
It
and
is.
they're passionate about it, and that
Yeah.
energy is, you know, I always say, great executives are energy vampires, right? They love and feed off of the people around them, and when you have a mission driven company where, the people are really focused on their customers and those outcomes, it 100% time, 100% more fun. So,
Absolutely. I totally agree.
yeah,
I coming from a recruiting background and interviewing people in um, you know, roles like yours, even down to even call center roles, you can just tell when someone needs a job and someone wants the job. It's like, to me, those are
yeah,
two totally different things. You can just tell right off the bat. I've interviewed probably hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of candidates, and you can tell right away whether they're going to be a good fit at this certain company or they're just coming in for a paycheck.
yeah.
So that's awesome. Kind of piggybacking off of that, your management style and day-to-day responsibilities, have they were there's was there a significant adjustment to owner to CTO or entrepreneur to CTO in those styles, management style and day-to-day responsibilities, or do they kind of mirror one another?
Um, I think there's a basic set of things. I think as a great leader, which I'm not, but I've, been uh, had the opportunity to work with great leaders. I think, there's 20-30% of it that they just have some magic, right? That's different and that are motivating and things like that. I think the other 70% of it is as you move into these kind of more, longer term growth roles and things like that. I think it's, again, I default back to, I think a lot of it is, identifying the patterns and, the way that people are motivated. I'll tell you this, first 10 years of my career, I was very focused on outcomes, exits, valuations, kind of building the next greatest technology. I think as I've matured as a leader, I figured out that if I focus on the people, and kind of enabling them or supporting them and really, trying to bring some focus to the business, I think that's dramatically shifted in the way that I manage people. If you would have told me 10 years ago, if you would have talked to somebody that worked for me, they would have said he's horrible, right? Like he's always focused on timelines and the outcomes and things like that. I'm still really focused on those things, but what I've found is that I'm motivated and they're focused and excited about the problem. Um, it's a much better, it's a different outcome, right? Like, and it's a different set of things.
Awesome. I think that that should cover the entrepreneur to CTO. You and I are
Okay.
both in the Austin area. I've been here 8 years. I believe you mentioned you've been here a lot longer than I have.
Sure.
I'm curious. So being a capabilities partner in Austin, focusing on the tech scene, focusing in on software engineering side, helping fintech software development companies. I'm curious, what's the most noticeable change you've observed in Austin's tech landscape over the past? Let's go 10 years. It says few years, few years, 10 years. I think 10 years would probably be a lot easier than maybe the last
Yeah.
five. It's blown
Yeah.
up in the last year, but really the last
Yeah.
10 years.
I think even on the technology side, I think, um, as a CTO, early in my career, I was really focused on the technology, building it and scaling it and things like that. I think in the last 10 years in Austin, I think this is probably across the US, but I think people are really focused on building kind of sustainable growth in the organizations. And I think, 10 years ago, you had a really great idea and, you kind of threw it out there and it stuck and that was great. I think now, Austin's is matured as a technology town, but I also think that it's matured in terms of, I think when people build companies here today, they build for an
Mm.
enduring business that's profitable, that, solves customer problems. I think 10 years ago, people did that, but it was a little bit more nascent. It was kind of, hey, I'm gonna do food delivery, or,
Hmm.
one of these other things. I think as the organization, I think it's just been a very, I wouldn't say dramatic, but I think there's been a big shift in terms of understanding that as you grow a startup, it has to be healthy. It has to have, a big TAM. It has to be profitable. You have to have real organic growth. It's not just a big PR exercise. And I think Austin's, matured as an organization, as a city, in our technology companies and the profile of the businesses too.
Absolutely, I agree. I think it was just a couple days ago, I read Austin was the #1 city for tech startups now.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty positive that's what it said.
Yeah.
I think when I moved here, the difference I've seen when I moved here to now is I think companies built up camps in Austin and then maybe moved on somewhere else or built a headquarters somewhere else. And now these companies are starting here and staying here and building for the future. And it's definitely more sustainable here now than it even was when I moved here. I've seen a noticeable difference. All of these different headquarters, Samsung, Apple, Tesla, those are just the big ones. Facebook's got a ton of different offices downtown. Now, I think it's just the city's just drawing these tech companies in, and then once they're here, they don't want to leave. I think that's the cool part about Austin.
Yeah. I mean, Austin's always been, I mean, even in the last, when I moved here in 1999, 98 or things like that, it was a lifestyle place. Like there were, you
Hmm.
had Dell and Samsung and a couple of bigger but there wasn't a lot of, nascent technology. And then, there was this rapid expansion of startups and then it kind of contracted a little bit. But I agree. I think people are building kind of enduring companies and they want to live in Austin and go here. And
Yep.
then, I think technology companies in general are so much better at globalization. Like, I think every early startup software company, they build the kind of core of the product and then they look for a nearshore or offshore partner. So I think companies here, while the heartbeat is still in Austin, I think they've really worked out a way to globalize,
I agree.
whether it be their workforce or nearshore or offshore partners, things like that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's what we do. That's why
Yeah,
we're here in
exactly.
Austin. We work with these software development fintech companies. Any type of really IT company that's here, and we help them with their near shore or onshore needs, and I think that keeps them here long term. So but, that's why we have our hub here in Austin, and we're here to
Yeah.
stay. And leading to that, with the influx of the new tech companies, startups, things like that, how has that affected talent or around the local ecosystem or any type of competition? Have you seen it? Have you seen that change competition wise and talent wise, good or
Yeah.
bad?
Yeah, I think it's actually been more positive. Going back to your kind of time frame, 10 years ago, I started a company that was, um, I had co-founded a company that was built on Ruby on Rails, which is, a software development. And at the time, Ruby was kind of a nascent kind of, early startup technology. And, there were three or four companies that, you worked with Ruby developers and we all competed for the same, 10,
Hmm.
12 unicorn employees that were fantastic. And you do the 10X and things like that. I think as we've grown as a city and a technology or, hub, I think that, I think there's more variety to it. So I actually think it's a more positive thing. I think you can, you can find a greater diversity of employees and technologies and things like that. And to your point, I think people are a lot more comfortable, with software development partners. So, looking for that last Ruby person in Austin isn't the thing, right? Like there's more outlets, and I think, companies are more globalized as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think with the influx has brought in, diversity, a lot more people around the talent pool. Um, than when I moved here. I keep
Yeah,
going back to the 8 years ago, and I was working out of Austin doing staffing as well. And I think the pool, the tech pool in general, I know we're talking tech here, is far vast. It's way bigger now than it
faster,
was.
100%.
It's yeah, it's incredible, honestly, the amount of talent that has moved to Austin or even around Austin. Austin, you say Austin, you have Georgetown, Cedar Park,
Yeah,
Lakeway, all of those areas, and the talent pools all around, even north,
yeah.
south, it's everywhere. How do you see Austin playing in the national or maybe even global tech industry moving forward? Like, are they going to be? Do you think Austin's going to be, one of those hubs like Silicon Valley, or do they kind of have their own little niche spot here in Austin, Texas?
I think we'll always be obviously we'll always be a little bit smaller than, kind of Silicon Valley or New
Mm-hmm.
York, things like that. But I do think, I think we've matured to a point where we are a hub, right? And we are kind of looking at a diverse set of software companies, whether it be, the Googles and the Oracles of the world that have headquarters and huge development, facilities here. Um, and then you have these very small, kind of nascent 3 or 4 person companies that are just trying to get started in AI or things like that. So I think that diversity that we've seen grow over the last 5 years is probably got another 5 to 10 years of growth on top of it. Because, you know, I always tell everybody, 20, 22, 23 years ago, there was a company called Trilogy here in Austin,
Mm-hmm.
and they're really dynamic software company, and they had a fantastic legacy of hiring these great people from all over and bringing them to Austin and things like that. And you can see these family trees of these people came to Austin straight out of school. They worked at Trilogy for a couple of years, or they worked at, I worked at a company called Life Size, all these companies, and they've gone on to start their own entrepreneurial ventures or work with other people, and you just see it expanding and expanding. So you know, I wish we were a little bit stronger on the B2C consumer side. I think Austin's got a lot to offer when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to kind of, direct to consumer kind of software and things like that. But, our heritage has always been kind of B2B SaaS. And I think, as you look at kind of these dynamics companies coming to the market over the last couple of years, I think you'll see continued expansion.
Yeah, that leads me right into the next one. What trends or developments do you see in the next 5 to 10 years here in Austin, um, as like maybe even as a future tech hub?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll continue, we're such a business friendly, whether it be state or, town. I think, all the intangible things that people move to Austin, whether it be lifestyle, affordability, some of those things are getting a little stretched, but all those fundamental things that made Austin a great tech hub are still here, and they're still kind of expanding. So I think you'll continue to see couple different things. One, I think just because, the roots have taken, you're going to see more entrepreneurialism, more companies kind of being started here.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we've seen this dramatic shift of companies either in Silicon Valley or New York or even, smaller markets. They're finding Austin to be, they can great talent, great people, kind of great heritage of great technologies and great products. And I think you'll continue to see that over the next 3 or 4 years for sure.
Yeah. I think the exact same way. I think Austin is going to. I think it's already exploded. I mean, I'm a
Yeah.
transplant. I'm not from Austin. I'm not from Texas. I came from Tennessee, and I've
Yeah.
been here. I'm probably not moving ever or anytime
Yeah.
soon. I plan on staying in Austin the rest of my life, hopefully.
Yeah.
But I think people also see that as they come visit, or if they're here for a conference, they just the town is still lively. I feel like it still has a small town feel
Yeah.
to it for being so big. Because I mean, you can go out on any highway at any part of the day. There's going to be traffic now. It wasn't like that when I moved here.
Yeah.
But I think to that point, I think there is going to be, just like the last 10 years, the next 10 years is going to bring even more diverse talent, more tech talent, more people are going to move in and around the city. So I
Yeah.
think it's a perfect opportunity for, startups or companies moving to Austin. I think it's only going to help them. I think the talent pool is going to continue to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we're still, I mean, even at, even at, during the pandemic, kind of, wages and salary, in Austin really kind of skyrocketed. I mean, and things like that. And it made it almost unaffordable. But I think over the last year or two, as the market's corrected itself, I think,
Mhm.
we've still seen really strong wages and kind of opportunities for people in this market. And why leave when you have, a beautiful place to live other than the 100-degree weather in August? I mean, we're, a really dynamic, kind of interesting place.
Yeah, that I agree. I agree completely.
Yeah.
So we've kind of talked about the opportunities over the next, 5, 10 years here in Austin. What are some of the challenges you think, or you anticipate that some startups might have when establishing a company here
Yeah.
in Austin over the coming years?
Yeah. Look, there's still, I mean, there's still a dramatic, need for great, talented people. And I think when I think about it, there's always been kind of a raw capacity issue in Austin, right? Like you're always on the hunt for the great talent. I think that hasn't changed, but what I do think is, um, because of some of the diversity, I think, the ability to be more prescriptive and kind of the people that, good example, like, AI data modelers are huge demand right now, right? 10 years ago, we had three great data scientists in Austin. Today we probably have 100, right? So I think that
Hmm.
while there's still, um, scarcity when it comes to very specific roles and teams and things like that, there's a great opportunity, to find fantastic talent, that's in a niche markets, which you want, right? Like you're going to want those one or two data scientists, or, an AI modeler, or a software developer with a very prescriptive set of skills and things like that. And I think as we've grown, I think that talent pool has gotten better, but it's still scarce.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're still another 3 to 4 years away from it being less scarce or not scarce at all. But
Yeah,
I
I
think it's
agree.
coming. I think it's
No, it's
coming.
coming. It's coming.
You going back to how you say it, Austin kind of corrected itself on wages and things that got too high, almost unlivable. I almost take that as like the same in real estate here in Austin. Like we missed the bubble in
Exactly.
Austin when it happened, and now, houses are not necessarily affordable, but that it's going to correct itself soon. We have so many new builds being built that are kind of just sitting, and it's just, I think as the economy corrects itself, that's just going to add, you know, even more talent to the market here in Austin. Especially, I mean, I'm in Manor right now, and just around me, the amount of things that are being built, it's not slowing down
No.
necessarily. Real estate might have a little bit, but I think the talent is still, as Austin is continuing to just
Yeah.
expand outwards. I think again the talent. I think that might be a challenge now, but in 5 years, I don't see that being as much of a challenge anymore.
100% agree. 100%.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you jumping on. This was awesome. My first one, so I really, really appreciate you doing it with me. I think you provided some amazing insight. I'm excited to, you splice it up and put some of these out on LinkedIn. I will send you and Ali a recording as well.
Great.
But I honestly, I really, really appreciate you doing this, Dave.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.